Today is known as Divine Mercy Sunday, among many things, and there's an indulgence that's tied to today's Sunday. And so normally it would be adoration at a church, but since that's not possible right now, there's also another stipulation of that indulgence for Divine Mercy Sunday. For those who do not have access to a church, which is basically everybody right now, you can pray in Our Father and the Creed before any image of the Divine Mercy. The image of Divine Mercy can be downloaded even and on the screen if you don't have one at home. And after the Creed and the Our Father, make an invocation to the merciful Jesus in there. And when confession is available finally, then we can complete that indulgence with confession. And so also just to clarify today, and sometimes people have a little bit of confusion on this Sunday in the octave of Easter. It's got so many different names, and your missal might say one name, the Roman missal has another name for it. Things that we read have mentioned another name. And so this Sunday, depending how you look at it, is either 6 or 5 different names that are attached to it. But it's, at the end, all the same. It's known either as the Sunday in the octave of Easter. It's also known in some places as Low Sunday as well. If you look at the Roman Missal, it's called Dominica in Albis, or in England known as Whit Sunday or White Sunday. It's also known as Quasimodo Sunday. Those are the first words of the Mass that you heard today sung, the introit. Whatever it is the case, well, it's the Sunday in the octave of Easter, and we finish this Easter celebration, this Easter day that lasts 8 days on this Sunday. In fact, if you look at the propers, whether it be for the traditional Latin Mass or in the modern Mass, it's still the same. It still begins with the same words, Quasimodo. And that's incidentally where that character, that Victor Hugo puts the Humpback of Notre Dame, gets his name. Because in the story, Quasimodo, an infant, is left at the doorstep of Notre Dame, and he's discovered on Quasimodo Sunday, today. And so the name was stuck onto him, the first words of the Mass. And so let us begin our reflection in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. How do we believe? So this is essentially the question in the epistle and the gospel which features St. Thomas the Apostle, and the thing for which he's most famous, doubting. We usually attach the moniker to him, the Doubting Thomas. And if we place St. Thomas the Apostle's doubt against the faith of the other apostles, we might actually find the basis of our Christian belief. Faith in anything must be grounded in some sort of belief. Otherwise, such a faith would be blind. And what else is faith based upon other than the truth? Judgments of belief are nothing more than trust, a trust in knowing the truth about something or someone. That is why blind faith is irrational. Blind faith doesn't hold for too long, because eventually our brain will kick in and will demand to know the truth of something. Our intellect inevitably will question those things for which we're not in full possession of the truth. And I suppose that the process of questioning those things for which we're not in full possession of the truth is called doubt. At least if you look up the Merriam-Webster dictionary, that's what it says. Our Catholic faith has never been a call to blind faith, and we're not called to believe in the absence of truth, because blind faith does not allow a relationship of trust to form between God and us. We've been hardwired to know the truth and to seek the truth when we're not sure about it. And that is probably why we might spend almost 1/3 of our life being educated in some form or the other, so that we may know the truth of something, or at least know how to find the truth of something. And so doubt, questioning whether we really have the facts or not, becomes a necessary part of the process of finding the truth. Doubt, as St. Thomas the Apostle shows us, and the Gospels wanted to preserve for eternity, is the process of perfecting one's faith. Now, be careful. I did not say that if you doubt, then you have perfect faith. No. What I mean to say is, when doubt arises in your faith, then you have an invitation to deepen and to perfect that faith. There's an opening, an opportunity there. Perhaps the Holy Spirit himself is asking you to look deeper into something. Oftentimes people think that it is a sin to have doubts about God or one's faith in God. But the uncertainty that is the basis of doubt itself cannot be a sin. Uncertainty is just a question that we pose to ourselves about knowing the truth of something. And it is a good thing when one resolves the question about the truth. When we resolve that doubt or that question, then we can move on. But it's not good if one refuses to find the truth, especially when one's soul yearns for it, because you usually don't get to move on in peace if you leave that hole there. Having a doubt about the faith is not a sin in itself, but refusing to resolve the doubt when one has the means to do it, well, that can be a sin. Let's get back to St. Thomas. Poor guy. It seems that he was never at the right place at the right time. Each time that the risen Lord had appeared to his disciples, Thomas, for whatever reason, wasn't there. He wasn't there when Jesus sent the Holy Spirit into the disciples. And so for about a week, Thomas had been hearing from everyone about the resurrection and their encounters with the risen Lord, how they actually saw Jesus, what Jesus said to them, and now how they understood everything that had happened. Even those strange parables that didn't make sense before, now all of a sudden made sense to everyone, except for our poor doubting Thomas. Yeah, I guess Thomas was going to have some doubts. The resurrection of Christ was something that I guess you had to be there in order to get it. For some reason, Thomas was always late. And so, on the one hand, we can forgive and understand Thomas's doubts regarding the experience of the resurrected Christ that the disciples were talking about. However, what Thomas actually did in response to these doubts is where perhaps his holiness really shined. What did he do? He demanded to touch and examine the wounds of Christ in order to believe. But that's not what got my attention. What gets my attention is that Thomas finally went to the place where Christ was. He was finally at the right place at the right time and took the means necessary for him to believe. Christ himself ordered him to stick his hand in his wounds and believe. And that is what Thomas did. Thomas went to the place where the truth was and was able to touch the truth with his own hands. Now he can trust. Now he could believe. And now his faith was unshakable. What good would it have been to demand to touch Christ and then refuse to go where Christ was? What good would it have been to have a doubt and then refuse to resolve it when the solution was there? God will give us signs and reveal the truth that we need in order to trust him, in order to believe him, and to have faith in him. Some of these signs are one size fits all. They're universal signs that anyone could get if they actually open themselves to it. They are the wondrous signs of the Creator that are embedded in his creation, the miracles that are recorded in the Gospels, and the words and the works of the saints. God will also provide some more personal signs, things that are tailor-made for you and no one else. But beware, because just like for Thomas, who had said that proof enough would have been to stick his hand into the wound of Christ, God may actually take you up on that offer. It would be quite another story had Thomas been grossed out at the moment when Christ invited him to put his hand into his side, just as Thomas had stipulated. If Thomas had been repulsed at the moment and not wanted to get his hands dirty, would he have ever believed? Jesus tells Thomas, "Blessed are those who have not seen and have believed." And this is where we see the gift of the Holy Spirit at work. Those disciples who were at the right place at the right time before Thomas received that gift of the Holy Spirit from Christ, and then they could recognize Christ. It was something that Christ gave to them. The risen Christ gives to us. Yet Thomas was not there. He had not received that gift yet. And that'd probably be another explanation for his doubt. Some of us will have more doubts than others, and some of us will find it harder to trust than others. And some of us may have to do more work than others in order to find the truth that lets you believe. But when one finally gets there and finds that truth that clears all doubt, is when one realizes that at the end, faith is a gift. It's a gift of the Holy Spirit. It may be given to those who put up a fuss, like Thomas, and it may be also given to those who don't demand so much. So much we hear from the epistle. May we always be ready to go to the place and to the persons that we know will help clarify those doubts. And when those doubts are cleared, let us be the ones that will help trust and believe in the Lord through the testimony of our life and our faith. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.